All right, I'm not sure if you can hear me at this particular time. Of course, breaking news at this particular hour. Ntate Mutlowu, I know you've got to consult at the second. Very, very quickly, just some reaction. All right, it seems that he is on his way to consult his client at the moment. Perhaps I could bring in one of the other lawyers that is part of the legal team at this stage. Does not seem at this particular stage I'm able to do that. But of course, breaking news at this particular hour that bail has been denied for Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. The presiding magistrate there, who is Estelle de Lange, saying that she does believe that Magudumana would be a flight risk. One of the issues that have been raised, of course, also pertaining, let me see if I can't get the National Prosecuting Authority also. That is also here, as you can see, some of the lawyers headed towards the area at this particular point. Let me see if I'm able to bring in the National Prosecuting Authority. I'm terribly sorry once again, Paladi. All the time, indeed. I'm going to ask my colleague to come towards this particular direction, where my colleague Tulo Munare is towards this direction. I want to bring in the National Prosecuting Authority. Dr. Paladi, certainly what you were hoping for. You feel triumphant this morning?
Yeah, from the start we've been saying that it would not be in the best interest of justice for the accused to be released on bail. And finally today the court agreed with the prosecution that it's not in the best interest of justice for the accused to be released on bail.
Some of the key aspects that were touched on by the presiding magistrate is that it clearly indicates that she left the country without documenting anywhere. I heard the magistrate say that she's definitely a flight risk. She could assist if she is then placed on bail with a further escape, I guess, of Mr. Thabo Bester. This is something that you've been contending all along, that she is a flight risk, even though the defense had said her passports had been handed over.
Well, it was also one of our concerns that she left the country without using her passport, even though the passport was found in her possession. And then this statement that she was forced to flee the country was made after 4 months of her arrest. We are not buying that statement. So fortunately, the court agreed with us that no, whatever that she presented before the court in an attempt to be released on bail is something that could not be legally allowed. Hence the decision of the court not to release her on bail.
There's still the matter regarding, of course, the Supreme Court of Appeal. That's something that's also scheduled to come up, where the issue relating to her being brought back to South Africa is still scheduled to sit.
Yeah, I understand that she submitted her petition on the 17th of last month, but we're not sure as to when the Supreme Court is going to sit to entertain that application.
Thank you very much indeed. The National Prosecuting Authorities, Paladi Shupeng, welcoming, of course, the decision by this court here this morning denying Dr. Nandipha Magudumana bail. Let's see if we can move towards this particular direction as well and see if we can also bring in some of it seems like we've just spoken, of course, to the National Prosecuting Authority, them welcoming this particular judgment in denying Dr. Nandipha Magudumana that bail. And just to walk you through some of the aspects that were mentioned there, the magistrate saying that she never received any complaint regarding how Dr. Nandipha Magudumana is incarcerated, of course, saying that every time she appears before this court, she is seemingly well kept, and that the applicant did not provide any evidence except in an affidavit that supports the allegations that she made. This is regarding the kidnapping. And you would know, of course, that it was in that affidavit that Dr. Nandipha Magudumana had indicated that she... Let me also just bring in here, let's try to get some more reaction, Mama. You've been here since the very beginning. You've been calling for no bail. Talk us through your reaction to the decision this morning.
I'm so relieved. I'm sure Katleo's mother and the father, they are also relieved. If you remember very well, we have been saying that she deserved to be in jail. For the mere fact that she was never honest with anything, Even now, when she applied for the bail application, she continued lying. I think if I was her, I would have, from the beginning to plead guilty because the evidence is before the court of law. And unfortunately, being an educated as she is, she managed to use the state resources, to lie all the time. So we're excited that she's going to remain in jail. And definitely, this is going to also to boost the morale, even the integrity of the institution by making sure that she remains in jail because she got so much to answer.
Right. Thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate it. More reaction, of course, coming through from the National Prosecuting Authority. Let's move towards this particular direction and see. We know that the defense was still headed down to go and consult with Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. I guess this now being on the way forward, they've actually gone down here to try and have conversations with her, following, of course, her refusal on bail at this particular time. But this is not the end of the road for her. You would know, of course, that over the next coming weeks to even a month or so, the Supreme Court of Appeal, the petition to the Supreme Court of Appeal over her being transported back to South Africa is a matter that was still going to be ventilated at the Supreme Court of Appeal. And in this particular instance, you would recall one of the bones of contention of the state was that while Dr. Nandipha Magudumana had approached the courts to challenge her transportation from Tanzania to South Africa, basically saying it was a forced extradition, it was not a deportation, as South Africa had alleged, the court, of course, found it was a forced extradition, but you also had the state then say, if she is now saying that this was a kidnapping, she was kidnapped by Thabo Bester, then why would she be against then or challenge her being brought back to South Africa? We're not expecting at this particular time any of the Bereng family members to be here. You'd recall my colleague Kamohelo Siokwe, who is right here next to me, had spoken to the family of Katlego Bereng, and they said that they were not going to be in court here this morning. And it seems with part of what we heard from the state there is that despite what had been made public by Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's lawyers, basically saying she'd been forced to leave the country, forced to flee, the magistrate says there's absolutely no evidence pointing to that at this particular time. One of the other issues that was also a bone of contention certainly pertained to the schedule of the charges that she was facing. Recall, in the beginning, this had been a Schedule 5 application, but then at some point, now this is one of the issues that the magistrate had raised, saying that this dispute that was brought by the defense to say that, in fact, this is actually a Schedule 1 application, bail application that was being brought. This was brought towards the end, towards the closing arguments, and now I guess what would have been a further nail in the argument that was being raised by the defense and Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's lawyers was that this issue had been raised at the last minute, and also the Director of Public Prosecutions had also sent communique saying that she and the others would be arraigned on corruption. Now, corruption being a Schedule 5 offence, so the court seemingly satisfied with that, in that the onus then would be on Dr. Nandipha Magudumana to prove to this court that she has not then, satisfied this court that it would be in the interest of justice for her to be released on bail. So she's not satisfied the court. She now is to remain behind bars. This is, of course, until October. And this is when the other accused will be appearing before court. But this case, certainly, Naledi, has not been short of any twists and turns. So I really suspect we are scheduled to see or even hear more from Dr. Nandipha Magudumana on what her way forward is. I want to bring in my colleague Kamohelo Siokwe here, who's been speaking to getting some legal analysis on this as well. Kamohelo, at this particular aspect, this morning we didn't know which way it would go. Others were saying 50-50. But in this instance, you spoke to the family of Katlego Bereng this morning. Talk us a little bit through that, and certainly their hopes and their wishes have come true. Their hopes and their wishes have come true.
This sentence for the family, Criselda, because the mother that when we spoke to her this morning, she said, please, can the justice system not fail me? You know, she said she was appealing that the justice system should not fail her, because she says her son is actually gone, and Dr. Nandipha is applying for bail, and she will definitely be able to see her children should she be granted bail. And remember that Katlego Bering also has 2 little children, and she was talking about them, saying that these children do not have a father. They now do not have remaining, and it would be an injustice if Dr. Nandipha was granted bail. So this should be a really glorious moment for them to learn that Dr. Nandipha Magudumana did not get bail.
All right. I'm going to leave you perhaps to get to perhaps what way forward we will see. Once you're done there, we'll continue as well. Perhaps on what way forward.
Thank you so much.
We might see Dr. Nandipha Magudumana proceed with, as this particular case has not been short of any of the surprises that we've seen.
Of course. We spoke to Ntate Thabo this morning, and you definitely put your head on the block, saying that Dr. Magudumana will be granted bail on the basis, of course, of the fact that the flight risk matter might be considered by the magistrate. She today said she's not convinced that any bail condition will stop her from even fleeing the country. Your thoughts on that?
To be said here is that as legal representatives of the applicant, Dr. Magudumana, they attempted their level best to persuade the magistrate to say she was not going to be a flight risk. Now, it seems that she is not persuaded. But that being so, the law prescribes that she was supposed to say, much as I am not persuaded, I am going to put a stringent condition to her bail application to say she must report twice to a certain police station. But in the absence of that, I think her finding to say that I am not convinced that she's not a flight risk, it stands to be challenged successfully so, because now she was supposed to say, much as there's an element of fleeing, I'm going to mitigate that element by setting this stringent condition, reporting twice a day. So I think if this matter can be challenged, Dr. Magudumana will come back.
But the magistrate did say that no bail conditions will stop her, because there's a passport that has been confiscated by the police, but that very passport was not used previously, and therefore she's also not convinced that anything will stop her from fleeing the country, and the fact that once she's out, she will have access and opportunity to repeat assisting Thabo Bester to escape from prison.
One, we cannot preempt as to whether the condition is going to be a workable solution or not without putting it to test. Secondly, coming to the issue of the passport, remember, it is Dr. Magudumana's version or her testimony that she has been abducted. When you are abducted, you are not going to take your passport. You are being taken forcefully. So you cannot take your passport because you did not prepare for this. So the issue of the passport is that, I couldn't have ordinarily used my passport because I was going there against my will. So the issue of the passport also can be challenged successfully.
So are you again putting your head on the block to say she will successfully appeal this matter?
I think viewers out there must appreciate the fact that, one, bail is not penal in nature. Presumption of innocence. We are all innocent until proven guilty. So Dr. Magudumana for now is innocent of the charges preferred against her. And then she's supposed to go on, she has got the right to apply for bail. And this honorable court, my view is that was supposed to grant her bail. And I'm still putting my head on the block, yes, to say Dr. Magudumana is a suitable candidate for bail.
Thank you so much. That was Thabo Molete there. I am going to hand over to my colleague Criselda just to wrap the proceedings for the day. You remember that Dr. Magudumana actually now has not been granted bail. She will remain in custody until the 11th of October, when all the accused in this matter will be coming back to court. We learned in the previous appearance when all previous appearance when all the accused in this matter appeared that October the 11th should be the day that the investigation is concluded. So we will hear from that. With that, it's back to you in studio.